Oui, mais c'est souvent, hein, eux, c'est devenu un adjectif pharaonique, on dit, ouais.
Check this out. So you can see the hieroglyphics out here. They don't have much color. You can still see the shape.
Hatshepsut.
And what I'm pointing out is in the Americas, you have temples, in Mayan sites and stuff that are like this. You can totally see the shape, but you don't get a lot of the richness. You can see a little bit of the paint left on these ones. And one thing that amazes me about pretty much all ancient temples is when you step inside, which also, this is amazing. You've got almost the full color preserved of what's left. And what's amazing to me is when you see these ancient sites in the Americas, in Egypt, wherever you are, the ones that have been left in the air and the sun, you know that you're not seeing what the ancient people were seeing, that the whole thing was painted, with these pyramids and everything. I'm specifically talking now about, in Central America, but all of their statues, all of the walls and the shapes and the carvings, they were all painted like this. And since then, they've lost their color over thousands of years. But here, you actually get to see it. And this is one thing I loved in Turkey, is that there's so many cave dwellings, cave churches. And when you get inside of caves, the colors are preserved, and it's just wild. And it's very fascinating to me. I mean, I don't want to just talk about what's in the Americas instead of what's right in front of me, but I will say I've my main interest in ancient world civilizations has always been in the Americas, and it's amazing to me the similarity of the art style, the simplicity, the two-dimensionality of the characters, the way, the positions that they use. It's very reminiscent of one another. It's obviously not exactly the same. You can tell side by side that one's from the Americas, one's from Egypt, but the simplicity of the expressions, everything, and I guess the medium, is the same. Wow, look at this. This is awesome. Let's see what's over here. And you can see it's built up into this cliff here. We're probably, I don't know, I'm totally ballparking, but I'd say we're probably a mile away from the Nile itself. So all of this would have had to been hauled up here on land or carved out of local surrounding rocks. Wow. There's also on the cliffs up here, there's all kinds of caves. I guess they built tombs for the workers who died on the job. So you can see those all in the up in the cliffs. They're still excavating tons of areas here. They're still discovering all the time new tombs, new temples, sometimes underneath developments. It was kind of sad on the drive up here that some of the villages around here, with houses and buildings, have been destroyed because the government basically moved people once they discovered a tomb or an archaeological site underneath the development. They basically moved people out and knocked down the buildings so they can do the actual excavations. Hopefully, people are being fairly compensated, though. I doubt they feel that way. That is quite amazing. I don't know. I mean, obviously, much of this is reconstructed, which is a little bit of a bummer. You can see that this is new stucco where they've placed the pieces that they still have intact. So I don't know how much of this is original versus how much of this is recreated. There's tons of totally authentic as it was sites around, but this one I really don't know how many of these statues were are just exactly where they were, untouched for thousands of years. I think this was about 2600 BC, which is mind-boggling. Oh, so this is just really cool. Let me show you the outside of the temple here. Ah, cool. There's not. Heard this heard in Argentina. Yeah, this looks pretty heavily restored. But there's value in that, I don't think it's embellished. I think it's restored to the original condition as close as they could get. I don't think they're, beefing it up. Obviously, it's cool to see things as they were. That's usually my preference, but I get the incentive, when there's this much tourism coming in. I get why they'd want to make it look as impressive as they can. But I don't think that they've put anything more than what it was. And plus, if some sites, they look, like this, like basically rubble, and they're able to see the original. Oh, that's not actually a site. That's just where they put a lot of the pieces, laid them to rest, I guess. It's interesting. Yeah, but it's just crazy because look how much, just every hill is just dotted with entrances to caves and, bits of rubble from ancient sites. And it's like, what do you do with it? This as well on this side. Can't see it very well from here, but they're just dotted with entrances. And you can't just, when you have that many sites in one area, it's a question, how much of this do you want to drag off to a museum so that people can actually experience, the history that can't come here themselves, especially when you have, 100 caves on one mountain. I don't know how many there are here, but a lot. It's like, should you leave them all as they are? I know in Belize, when they discover new sites, because there's tons of caves with Mayan artifacts that just open up with heavy rainfall, and the law basically says leave everything as it is. Don't remove anything. Don't preserve it. Just leave it as it is. And I guess I see the thinking in that. Leave things as they are, but I personally don't agree with it because I think much of it gets destroyed or pilfered. The reality is people are going to go and vandalize and steal if you don't actively preserve it, even if that means removing it and sending it to a museum. But then there's questions of, who gets to control what happens to these artifacts? Which museums do they go to? I know Egypt has recently requested to get the Rosetta Stone back, and it's like, should that belong to the Egyptian government as it is today, or should it go to whatever institution it's at now? I'm not sure if it's the British or the French who have the Rosetta Stone, but it's all interesting questions and important to ask which is going to result in the best preservation, the best research of ancient knowledge, and who that's going to benefit, and how can we help gather the most educational and informational value from this stuff. I think that's probably the most important part to me. Well, that's the first side of my tour today, and it is visually pretty spectacular. All right, there we go. Hope you enjoyed.